Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello dear learners, welcome to the session of Managerial Economics. I am Dr. Supriya Jain, working as an assistant professor in the Institute of Business Management at GLA University, Mathura. So let's begin with our today's session. If you look at the previous session, these are the topics we have talked about. We have seen what market is, and market is basically an interaction between the buyers and seller where the exchange of goods and services takes place at a given price, right. And then thereafter we have talked about the market structure, the morphology of market, what are the different features and conditions we have in different market structure, where we have talked about perfect competition, monopoly market, monopolistic competitive market as well as oligopoly market. So these are the different forms of market which were covered in our previous session, and besides this we have also talked about duopoly market as well as monopsony. So we can just make a quick recall of our discussion in our previous session. Perfect competition is a market, or this is a market structure where we have very large number of buyers and seller, and this is the market which we are going to cover here in our today's session in detail, how we are going to determine the price and output in short run as well as in the long run. Whereas if we talk about monopoly market, monopoly is a market structure where there is a single seller, right, and in this market the product which he monopolist is selling is a single seller, he is the single seller, and the product is also single, he does not have a close substitute for his commodity, and in this market there is a restrictive entry as well. And then we have also talked about different types of monopoly, how we generate or how people are getting this monopoly power. That can be because of the natural reason, that can be because of regional monopolies are also there, economic monopolies are also there, and people have this monopoly power because of legal aspects as well, right. So those were the different types of monopolies which were covered, and we have talked about the very important feature of this monopoly market, that is the price discrimination, right. So price discrimination is an art of selling a same commodity to different people at different prices, and to do this there are certain conditions which are required, like one who has a control over the supply of the market, that person is only capable of discriminating among the prices, right. One should be able to divide their market in more than one or two markets, and these markets should have different elasticities, right. So this price discrimination concept was discussed, and then we have seen this monopolistic competitive market, which is actually a combination of perfect competition and monopoly, because in this the sellers have to compete because the products which they are selling are of heterogeneous nature, and we do have the close substitutes of our commodity, but each seller has their own loyal customer because they have their own brands in the market. So they have a little sort of monopoly, and at the same time they were also competing. So monopoly competitive market is a market where the sellers are usually compete on the basis of their product rather than on the basis of their prices. And then we have talked about this oligopoly market structure, which says that here in this market we have few dominant player, and here we have seen one important characteristic, that was interdependence, right, as because we have very few players in this market, and the products which they are producing can be homogeneous, can be heterogeneous. So if the oligopoly firms are having the homogeneous product, then we give it as a name of pure oligopoly, and if they are producing the different product, we used to call it as a differentiated oligopoly, right. So here there is an interdependence of the firm. So whatever the decision you usually make, they take into account what will be the impact of the competitor firms on that decision, right. And then we have duopoly market. Duopoly, like duo means two, when we have two sellers in the market, right, that particular market form is called as duopoly. And then we have monopsony also, which is an opposite condition of monopoly. In monopoly we have a single seller, whereas in monopsony we have single buyer. So, this is all about our market structure, where we have got a clear understanding of these market forms. Now, in our today's session, let us look at the learning objectives, what we are going to talk about. Here in this session, you will be able to examine the nature of perfect competitive market, and you will also understand how this market and the firm demands under the perfect competition, right. How do we find out the price, what will be the price under perfect competition, since this is the market where sellers does not determine the prices, they take the market prices from the market forces. So, that you will be able to understand, and you will also be able to analyze the pricing and the output determination or the decisions were taken under the perfect competitive market in short run as well as in the long run, because these are the two important time frame, right. So, seller in the perfect competitive market has to make sure how much they will be producing, at what price they should be producing, so that they would be able to optimize their resources and to have maximum results out of it, right. So, let us begin with that. So, here we have the features and conditions of perfect competitive market. Just have a quick review of these features, so that we can understand it once again. We have large number of buyers and seller, right. This is the market where the number of buyers and sellers are very large, and I have given few example, like you can say that share market is an example of perfect competitive market. Unskilled labor market is again a market which comes under this perfect competition. But yes, that is also true that this market is having more of theoretical and hypothetical market it is. So, here we have large number of buyers and seller. Then we have discussed that this market is having an homogeneous product. That means the seller who are working under this perfect competitive market, the products which they are selling, they are of similar nature, they are identical to each other, there is no difference among the product, right. Consumer also have a perfect knowledge about the market conditions. So, here seller cannot charge the prices by telling the consumer that their product is better than the other, because here the consumers are having complete knowledge regarding the prices as well as the quality of the product. Here in this market, there is a freedom of entry and freedom of exit. This is an unrestricted area, right. If any new seller wants to enter into this market, they can easily enter, and at any point of time, if they are not able to survive in this market or not able to make out the profit, right, they can easily exit from this market. Then we have price taker. Yes, again this is a very important point which we need to take into account, that the firms under perfect competitive market are the price taker, and they take the prices from the market. Based on those prices, they are selling their commodity. So, here again it is important for this perfect competitive seller that they should be focusing on the cost, because this is the market where they cannot increase the price or they cannot determine the prices of their commodity. Whatever will be the demand and supply in the market, accordingly they have to price their commodity. So, if they want to increase their profit margin, they have to work on the cost, how they can reduce the cost of their production to increase the margin of their profit. Then there is a perfect mobility of factors of production, and the factors of production are those factors which are used in the process of production, like we have labor, right. So, we have entrepreneur. Since all the firms under this perfect competitive market are producing identical products, they are producing the same product. So, same set of skills are being required by all the employers, right. So, the factors of production have perfect mobility, they can move from one seller to the another, right. And here in this market we have perfectly elastic demand curve, right. So, demand curve here is perfectly elastic, which is going to be discussed further in our this session itself, right, where we will see how we will determine this perfectly elastic demand curve, which is in a horizontal form. You can say it is parallel to the x axis, and there are few conditions also to study this perfect competitive market. So, those assumptions are like, here we assume that transportation cost is absent, okay, while understanding this market clearly and to get the result out of this market, we have assumed that in this market there is an absence of transportation cost, as well as we assume that there is no government intervention, government is not playing any active role in this perfect competitive market. So, this is the basic understanding we have for this perfect competitive market. Now, let us move further to understand how prices are being determined. Since the firms under this perfect competitive market are the price taker. So, like I said, here the price are being determined based on demand and supply. So, here you can see in this curve we are talking about the demand curve, which is a downward sloping curve. Here you can see denoted by D and D. On the x axis we have quantity, and on the y axis we are representing the price, right. So, you need to understand this also. On the x axis we always keep that thing which is a dependent variable, right. Dependent variable are always being placed on the x axis, and on the y axis we always place independent variable. So, this DD curve represents the demand curve and SS curve represents the supply curve, right, and the point where they both are in equilibrium, right, where they are same. So, that point basically determine the prices under perfect competition. So, OP will be the price to sell this OQ output in this market, right, and this is the price which every seller is going to keep for their commodity. And you can say that when the demand is equals to the supply, that point is actually an equilibrium point, right. Here in this, at this point you can say that market is an equilibrium phase. So, whatever the changes are going to take place in the demand as well as in the supply of the product, that will change the prices. Like here on the right side you can see, I am trying to make you understand if there is a change in the supply, right. So, here we have the supply curve and demand curve, and we have seen that T was your equilibrium point and OP was the price for selling OQ quantity. Now, suppose if the supply increases, when the supply increases, right, supply curve shift towards right, and this shift takes place because of change in the factors other than price, right, because of any reason, right. The factors which affect the supply of the commodity, like number of firms, like state of technology is one of the determinant which affect the supply, government policies also affects the supply, right. So, whatever may be the reason, if any, because of any reason, if the supply increases. So, let us say supply curve shift towards right, and this S is the new supply curve, right. So, you can see being the demand same, if you are understanding, the demand remains the same and supply increases. So, what will happen? The price of the commodity will reduce. Now, price will shift to PO, because being the supply more and keeping the same demand, right. This is the demand curve which was earlier there it was, and now with the change in the supply you can see the price will reduce in the market. Okay. So, this is how the price will change. It is not that price will not change in this market. They will change because of change in the market forces, that is demand and supply. If suppose for some reason supply curve or demand increases, right, demand increases. So, demand curve you can see that demand is shifting from D to this curve, right, which is shown here with the dotted line, right, keeping the same supply, and when the demand increases you can see that here the price will also increase, right. So, now the price will be OP1 in the market because of shift in the demand taking place and supply remains the same. So, this is how we basically try to understand the interaction between the demand and supply, right. So, whenever there will be a change, if supply increases keeping the demand same, right, or if supply decreases keeping the demand same, or if both are increasing or if both are decreasing, right. So, whatever the change has been taking place in these forces, that will change the price in the market, right. So, this is how we determine the price under perfect competition. Now, moving ahead, let us also see one of the point which we have seen, and we have said that under this perfect competitive market, the demand curve is perfectly elastic. So, how do we calculate this demand curve under this perfect competitive market? So, let us see again with the help of this market forces, right. Suppose this is the demand curve which is representing the downward sloping curve, and this is our supply curve. So, this is the equilibrium point, and this is the point where we are determining the prices under perfect competition. OQ is the output which we are selling and OP is the price which we are taking, right. So, how are we representing the demand curve under this perfect competition? If we draw the straight line from this, you can see that this is the demand curve for the perfect competitive market. So, OP is the price because we have taken it from the market based on the interaction of demand and supply. So, this will be the price, and on this price there can be the different quantities which can be sold under perfect competition depending upon the demand in the market, right. So, this is how we find out the demand curve. This is called as average revenue curve, and this is also been considered to be as a marginal revenue curve, because here the price remain constant. So, average revenue will be constant, therefore, the marginal revenue will be constant. This PL line denotes your demand curve, right. So, this is how we represent the perfectly elastic demand in the perfect competition. Now, let us look at the determination of output or firm's equilibrium. Like I said, perfect competitive market is a market where the firms are the price taker. So, they always focus on their equilibrium point. They want to produce up to the point where they will be having a lesser cost, so that they would be able to increase their profit margin. So, how are they going to determine the prices output, right? Determination of price we have already seen. The determination of price under this market takes place with the interaction of demand and supply. Now, how the determination of output is going to taken up, and where the firm is going to reach up their equilibrium point, that is what we are going to understand in short run as well as in the long run. So, since the firm in the perfectly competitive market are the price taker, and they adjust their level of output to maximize its profit, right. So, they are left with only one choice, where they need to adjust their output, so that they would be able to increase their profit margin. So, the aim of any producer is to maximize the profit, and in other words you can say that they like to produce the output which gives them the maximum profit or the minimum losses. So, this is the consideration they keep, right. So, therefore, firms determine their maximum profit output, which is the equilibrium point of the firm, with the interaction of individual cost curves as well as the revenue curves. So, as we know that the firm's minimum profit will be at the point where marginal cost curve will cut the marginal revenue curve from below. So, we have seen these two things, that we have marginal costs and we have marginal revenue, right. So, like I said, I have shown you the demand curve, where we have stated that the average revenue in the perfect competitive market is constant, and because of the average revenue curve, we have constant average revenue curve, therefore, our marginal revenue will always remain same. Because what is marginal revenue? Marginal revenue is the additional revenue, right. If you are producing one or selling one extra unit, and because of that, if you are getting any extra revenue, right, additional revenue you are getting, that is called as marginal revenue. So, since average revenue is constant in the perfect competitive market, the marginal revenue will always be constant, right. And at the point where the marginal cost curve cuts the marginal revenue curve from below, right, that point is the equilibrium point. Okay. So, to produce up to that point, firm will be able to maximize their output and profit as well, right. So, under perfect competitive market, we can see we have seen that the prices are uniform and the output are sold at the same prices. As a result, the average revenue curve is perfectly elastic and it is horizontally parallel to the x-axis, which I have shown you. And since the average revenue is constant, like I said, marginal revenue will also be constant. So, here the graph which I have explained here is, this is the price which is being taken from the market, this PL is your demand curve, which states that average revenue of the firm will be constant, and because the average revenue curve is constant, the marginal revenue curve will also be constant, and the point where the marginal cost curve will cut your marginal revenue curve from below, right. This is how we represent the marginal cost curve. If you guys remember, we had our discussion in our lecture where we have talked about marginal cost. The marginal cost of any commodity initially reduces, right, as and when we add the additional unit of that commodity, and then thereafter it started increases. So, the point where the marginal cost curve is cutting your marginal revenue curve from below, that point is particularly known as equilibrium point, and stated that this OQ is the output which can be produced and sold at OP price, so that firm will be able to maximize its profit, right. So, AR curve of the firm represents the demand curve of the product produced by the firm. Okay. So, here we have short run equilibrium. First, we will talk about firm's equilibrium in the short run, right, how firm is going to reach this equilibrium point in the short run, because we always have this time period into consideration, because we have in short run we have two inputs. Some of the inputs are of fixed nature which cannot be changed, right. If even if we want to increase the size of output, we cannot increase the change, we cannot bring the change to the inputs which are of fixed nature. Whereas long run is a consideration where we do not have any fixed input. All the inputs are variable, because in long run they are subject to change, right. So, you can see that short run is a period in which the number of plant and size of the firms are fixed, okay, keeping these inputs as a fixed input. So, in this period firm can only produce only by increasing the variable input, right. So, this is one consideration which you have to understand to study about the short run equilibrium. The first things which we are saying that here in short run we have fixed inputs as well as we have variable inputs, okay, and we can only make change in the variable inputs to increase the output. These fixed inputs will remain fixed. So, and the second condition which we have to understand here is, since this perfect competitive market says that the freedom is there to enter as well as freedom is there to exit from the market. For sure this freedom is there, but to understand this clearly we are talking right now about the short run equilibrium, right. So, it is not easy for any seller to enter into this market in a short run, as well as it is also not possible for any seller to exit from this market in the short run. So, what we are saying here, as the entry of new firm or exit of the existing firm is not possible in the short run, therefore, the firms in the perfect competitive market can either earn supernormal profit, normal profit, or they might can incur a loss. So, the players who are working under perfect competitive market in the short run, they cannot go out of this market or they cannot enter into this market because of the short term period, right. The firms which are working in this particular zone of short run, they can have three categories of margin, that is supernormal profit. Now, supernormal profit is one thing which you need to understand, then they can also earn normal profit, and there are the firms which can incur the loss. So, the second point which I was writing here is, in short run we have fixed inputs and variable input. Keeping this fixed input to be fixed, we can only make changes to the variable input to increase the size of output, one thing in the short run. And in the second point we have discussed that no new firm can enter and no existing firm can exit, right. That is not possible again because of the time frame, right. Now, what is the supernormal profit, normal profit and loss? Supernormal, we say that the firm is earning supernormal profit where the average revenue of firm is greater than the average cost. Okay. If the revenue, average revenue, specifically we are not talking about the revenue and cost, but here we are talking about the average revenue, revenue per unit, right. If it is greater than the average cost of the company, then a company is earning supernormal profit, right. Whereas normal profit is a consideration where the average revenue of the firm is equals to the average cost, okay, where the revenue and cost are equal, then this is the situation of normal profit, and this normal profit is required to run your basic working conditions, right. Here you are not considering yourself into a loss as well as not in profit. So, here you are earning equally and here your revenue will be equals to the cost. Whereas, loss is a situation where your average revenue is lesser than the average cost. Average cost is more here and the firm is having lesser average revenue, that means firm is running into losses, and definitely it is difficult for any firm to survive into losses. So, maybe right now because of a shorter time frame they are not able to exit from the market, but definitely in the longer run if they will continue with their losses they will leave the industry. So, I hope this short run equilibrium conditions are clear to every one of us, where we have seen that because of the short run period we have fixed input and variable input, and only variable inputs can be changed to increase the output of the firm, right. Secondly, no new firm can enter and no existing firm can exit from the market under perfect competition because of a shorter time frame. So, the firms which are working under the short period under this perfect competition can earn supernormal profit, normal profit, or they might can incur a loss, right. So, let us look at these conditions when the firm will earn supernormal profit, how are we going to determine this firm's equilibrium, right? How we are going to understand it? So, here you can see on the x axis we are representing the quantity output and quantity, you can say both, and on the y axis we have revenue, cost and price, right. Revenue is the the revenue minus cost is the profit. So, how we are going to calculate the profit of a firm working under this perfect competition, and here we are representing the condition of supernormal profit. So, guys, you can see here we have already made our discussion up to this point that OP is the price which we have taken from the market with the interaction of demand and supply, and this PL is a average revenue curve, represents the demand under this perfect competition. So, here in this perfect competition market we have seen that demand curve is perfectly elastic, which is parallel to the x axis, and this is how we calculate the average revenue. And since the average revenue is constant, therefore, the marginal revenue curve will also be constant. So, here we have average revenue which is equals to the marginal revenue. And how do we find out the equilibrium point? Just now we have studied that equilibrium point is the point where the marginal cost curve will cut your marginal revenue curve from below, right, and where the marginal revenue is equals to the marginal cost. So, you can see here we are denoting it with SMC because this is the short run consideration we are talking about. So, here we have this short run marginal cost, and you can see that at point E, this marginal cost curve is cutting the marginal revenue curve from below, and the point E says that at this point the marginal revenue is equals to the marginal cost. So, particularly this E point is the equilibrium point for the firm. A firm should ideally produce OQ output in this short run. So, OP is the price taken from the market, PL is the demand curve which states that price demand is perfectly elastic, and since here the average revenue is constant, marginal revenue of the firm is also be constant, and here from marginal revenue cost which cuts the marginal revenue curve from below, right, and where the marginal revenue is equals to the marginal cost, we have this equilibrium quantity. So, OQ quantity we should be producing because the firm is going to reach the equilibrium point at E level, right. Now, we to find out the supernormal profit, what we have done? We have talked about this short run average cost. Since the supernormal profit condition is the condition where your average revenue is greater than average cost. Okay. If your average revenue is greater than average cost, then we call it as a condition of supernormal profit. So, we have seen that this is our average cost curve, and we have also seen that average cost curve is always of U shape, right. This we have already discussed, and it is the cost which comes out with the average fixed cost and average variable cost. If you remember, average cost is equals to average fixed cost of the company and average variable cost, right, and it will always be of U shape. And why it is of U shape, that relationship also we have studied, right, because average fixed cost always decreases as and when we increase the size of our output, our average fixed cost curve will always decline, and it is a shape of a rectangular hyperbola, right. Why? Because initially there is a more decrease in the average fixed cost, and later on it decreases with the diminishing rate, whereas average variable cost of a product is again of U shaped. Initially it reduces and thereafter it started increases, and because of which the average cost curve is of U shape, right. So, here you can see that we have this average cost curve, short run average cost curve. Now, to calculate this supernormal profit, what we are seeing, OP is the price at which the product is being sold, and OQ is the output which they are selling. So, you can see that EQ is the average revenue curve. EQ, this much of revenue a firm is earning, because this represents the average revenue of the firm, and to produce this OQ output, if we are talking about the cost, FQ is the cost, right. So, what we are saying here, if I will explain it to you clearly to make it understanding for you. So, what we are saying, EQ is the average revenue of the firm and FQ is the average cost, right. So, you can easily see EQ is the average revenue of the firm and FQ is the average cost of the firm, and to calculate the profit, what do? We deduct we minus this profit to calculate the profit of the firm, average revenue minus average cost, we will be able to find out the profit, right. So, this is the revenue and this is the cost. So, this EF is the profit per unit. Okay. So, the difference between EQ and FQ is EF, right. So, this is the profit per unit, right. So, when we multiply this per unit profit with the total output, because we are going to find out the total profit of the firm. So, here we have made this multiplication and we can say that this area FHPE is your supernormal profit area, right. The firm is able to earn profit because here the revenue is more than the cost. Okay. So, I hope it is clear to every one of you how we are calculating this supernormal profit in the short run by looking at the consideration, the prices, the output, the equilibrium point in the firm, where the firm is going to reach out the equilibrium point. With the interaction of these firm, we have calculated the average revenue and the average cost, and the difference between average revenue and average cost is the profit, right. So, this EF is the profit per unit, and when we multiply this per unit profit with the total output, then we will be able to find out the supernormal profit of the firm. Okay. So, now we have talked about this supernormal profit condition, and here we have this explanation of supernormal profit which we have already discussed, like what we are representing on the x-axis and how we are finding out the equilibrium point. So, one thing which you need to remember here is equilibrium point firm will reach where the marginal revenue curve will cut your marginal cost, marginal cost curve will cut your marginal revenue curve from below. So, here it is written here, the firm is in equilibrium at the point E where marginal revenue is equal to the marginal cost, and the marginal cost curve is cutting your marginal revenue curve from below, right. So, that point is the equilibrium point which will help you to understand how much output a firm should produce under the perfect competition in the short run. Okay. And then we have seen the difference between the average revenue and the average cost. So, if the revenue, average revenue of the firm is greater than the average cost, that particular situation would be considered to be a normal, supernormal profit condition, right. Here the firm is earning supernormal profit. So, this is already known to every one of you how we have calculated this area HFEP in this graph. Now, looking further, we have this short run normal profit. Okay. As we have seen that the firms working under perfect competition in the short run, they can either earn supernormal profit, or they can earn normal profit, or they might can incur a loss, right. So, first condition we have already seen how the firms are earning supernormal profit in the short run. Let us look at the graph where if a firm is earning only normal profit, and if you remember I have told you normal profit is a condition where the average revenue of the firm will be equals to the average cost. Now, again we have output on the x-axis and we have revenue, cost and price on the y-axis. I believe you are able to understand it clearly now from where we have taken this OP price. This OP price has been taken with the interaction of market forces, that is demand and supply, and we have this perfectly elastic demand curve. Here we are representing it with PL. PL is the demand curve of this perfect competitive market, and the demand generates the revenue. So, here we are representing the average revenue, and since the average revenue of the firm is constant, marginal revenue will also be constant. There is no change in average revenue. So, the marginal revenue will always be equal to the average revenue. And now, if you look at this marginal cost, right, to find out this equilibrium point, we need to see where the marginal cost curve is cutting your marginal revenue curve. So, here we are representing this short run marginal cost curve, and this is the point where the marginal revenue is equal to the marginal cost, and this marginal cost curve is cutting it from below, right. So, again with this equilibrium point we are saying that OQ is the output which a firm should produce, right. Now, to produce OQ output, how much cost a company is incurring, right. So, earlier case was the supernormal profit case, and where we know the average revenue is greater than the average cost. Therefore, we have drawn the average cost curve below this average revenue curve, right. But now, as because we are representing the condition of normal profit, and at normal profit we have average revenue which is equals to the average cost. So, here the average cost curve will touch your average revenue curve, right. So, you can see here this average cost curve is going to touch your average revenue curve, and you can see that this is the point again at point E, your average revenue is equals to the average cost. So, particularly what we are saying at point E, we have marginal revenue equals to the marginal cost, and similarly at point E, which is an equilibrium point, our average revenue is also equals to the average cost, right, which states that the firm which is earning the normal profit is having the same average revenue as well as average cost, and this is the minimum return a company or a firm is expecting to run out its operation, because we are not considering the situation of a supernormal profit where the firm is earning more or where the firm is also incurring any loss, right. This is the condition where firm can have their existence in the market, because they are earning that much where they are able to meet out their cost, right. So, this is how we explain normal profit in the short run, right. So, I believe this is clear to every one of you. There is no profit and there is no loss to it, right. Again, here we have the explanation given for this normal profit curve, which I have already explained you, okay, where we have seen how we have taken the prices from the market, how we have represented the demand curve, average revenue curve and the marginal revenue curve with this PL point, right. And we have also calculated the equilibrium point while understanding where the marginal revenue curve is equals to the marginal cost curve, right. And as we know, this is a normal profit condition. So, therefore, our average revenue will be equals to the average cost. So, we will draw the average cost curve where it is going to touch your average revenue, right. So, here in this graph you can see to produce OQ output, EQ is the average revenue and EQ is the cost, right. So, when average revenue is equals to the average cost, it will represent the condition of normal profit, right. So, now let us move further where we can see how we represent the losses in the short run, because the firms are either earning supernormal profit or they might can earn normal profit or they might can incur a loss, right. So, here we are representing the condition where firms are incurring the loss. So, again the same explanation, because the graph will remain same, only there will be a change in average cost curve, right. So, to remember this one thing, when we are talking about this perfect competitive market and we are representing the different conditions, right, where the firm is earning supernormal profit, normal profit or they are incurring the loss, the only change you are going to make in the average cost curve, right, keeping into consideration that average cost will be lesser than average revenue in the case of supernormal profit, it will be same with the average cost in case of normal profit, and here you can see the average cost curve will shift upward, right, because here the cost is more, we are representing the loss condition. So, here the average revenue curve will be below, and from this side we are going to draw this short run average cost curve. So, again OX on the x axis we are representing the output, and on the y axis we have revenue, cost as well as price. This OP is the price taken from the market forces, and this PL line denotes your demand curve, and with this demand you are getting the revenue which is constant, which makes your average marginal revenue also constant. And here with the help of this short run marginal cost, we have taken this equilibrium point, again we are denoting it with E for your understanding. So, here the firms will reach up to the equilibrium point where the firm is going to produce OQ output. Now, to produce this OQ output, the average revenue is EQ, right, because this is the average line, average curve, okay. So, this EQ is the average revenue, whereas the average cost of the company is FQ, right. So, FQ is the average cost, because this is the average cost curve. So, we have taken this FQ as an average cost of the company, and since we can see the cost, average cost is greater than average revenue, because FQ is greater than EQ, and the difference between FQ and EQ is your loss. So, this FE point denotes the loss of the company, and this is the loss which they are incurring per unit, right. This is the loss per unit. Now, when we multiply this per unit loss with the total output, then we will be able to find out the total loss area of this firm in the short run. So, this PHEF is the total loss which a firm is incurring in the long run, right. So, these are the three conditions which we have to understand, and this happens because of, as we know that the firms working under perfect competition in short run, there are some fixed inputs and there are some variable inputs. So, fixed inputs will remain fixed, we cannot make changes to these inputs. So, whatever the change we want to bring into the output, we bring it with the variable input by varying the variable input. And secondly, we have seen that in short run, as because of the shorter time frame, no new firm will be able to enter into the industry and no existing firm will exit from the industry. So, remaining firm operating under perfect competition can earn supernormal profit, normal profit, or they might can incur a loss. And the conditions we have discussed here, the only thing which you have to understand here is how we are going to represent the average cost curve under this market. So, here again we have the explanation of the loss. I believe this is clear to every one of you, as we have discussed it and we have understood it, how are we going to calculate the loss under this condition, right. So, now let us move further to understand the long run equilibrium. Since the firm has to operate in the short run as well as in the long run, so what is the difference between the short run equilibrium and how the firm is going to reach in the long run, right, and what will be the considerations there in the long run. Okay. So, you can call it as in long run equilibrium also, or you can say that how we are determining the price and output in the long run. So, again there are few things which we need to remember. The very first point says that in long run all factors are variable. Now, as because we have enough time, right, we can make changes to our fixed inputs also. Fixed inputs are only fixed in a shorter period, right. Because of the time frame we are not able to change them, but because now we are talking about the long run, since we have enough time, and long run is also a planning horizon where we can change our situation, we can think of bringing new things. So, here no factor will be or no input will be of fixed nature, all the inputs are of variable nature, we can bring change to all the inputs. So, what we are saying, all factors are variable here. And secondly, firm can increase their output by increasing the number of plants and size of the plant, right, because earlier in the short run we have kept these as a fixed input, we were not able to increase the size of the plant or the number of plants because they were considered to be as a fixed input in the short run. But now in the long run, if the firm is planning to increase their plant size or they want to introduce new plant to their business, then they can easily do it. And the again most important aspect for the long run consideration is, in the long run, as because this is again an important feature of perfect competitive market, that there is a freedom of entry and exit, right. Firms working under the long run can easily enter and exit the market because there is no restriction in this market, but just because of a time frame in the short run they were not able to enter and exit. But here in the long run, any new seller can enter and any existing seller can exit from the market, right. So, these are the conditions which we need to keep here in our consideration before we talk about long run equilibrium, right. All factors are of fixed nature, variable nature, there will be no fixed factor, right, and the firm can increases the plant sizes or the number of plants in their business because we have enough time. And lastly, we have seen that any new firm can enter into the market and any existing firm will exit from the market. Now, with these three conditions, what will happen in the long run? The firms which are operating in the long run under perfect competitive market, they will only earn normal profit, right. So, one thing which makes the change here is, firm working or operating under perfect competitive market in the long run will only earn normal profit. There will not be a condition of supernormal profit and no firm is going to earn loss here. Why it is so? That discussion we will also make in this particular class itself. So, let us see how we are going to represent this long run equilibrium where the firms are earning only normal profit. So, as it is written here also, as a result the existing firm will only earn normal profit in the long run. So, here the reasons are why the firms are not earning supernormal profit in the long run and why the firms are not incurring losses as well. So, if the existing firms earn supernormal profit, the firms which were operating in the short run because of which they were earning the supernormal profit. Now what will happen? The firms which were earning supernormal profit in the normal in the short run, they will increase their production by increasing the number of plant. Definitely, if you are earning good in your business, you will always try to expand the size of your business and you want to make it bigger, right. So, the firms which were operating in the short run and were earning supernormal profit, they will increase the size of their business, they will expand their capacity and they will try to make their business bigger. And what will happen? This will also attract new suppliers to the industry, because if in any industry people are earning supernormal profit and there is a scope, there is a demand in the market, then definitely new firms will enter into the industry and they will compete with the existing firms. Now, because of this, what will happen? As a result, the output produced will increase, because the existing people who are earning supernormal profit, they have increased their production and new suppliers were also added to the industry. So, they have also started their production. So, therefore, the production will increase, the output will increase, and because of increase in the output, what will happen? The total output increases, where the demand of factors of production will increase, definitely, because when you are producing more, you will be demanding more of factors of production, you would be needing more land, more money, more capital, more people, right. So, the demand for factors of production will increase, and because of increase in the demand of production, their price will increase, right. The things which were earlier available to you at lesser prices, now their price will increase, which will increase your cost of production, right. So, what we are understanding here is the firms which were earning supernormal profit in the short run, they will expand their size of business and will attract new firms to the industry, because of which the total output will increase, and to increase this output, the demand for factors of production will increase, right, and when their demand will increase, definitely their price will go up, and which will increase the cost of production. So, to understand here why the firms operating in the long run will only earn normal profit, because of these reasons, right, because their profit margin will reduce, and as we already know that the firms in the perfect competitive market are not the price maker, they are the price takers. So, they have no choices, they cannot increase the price even if the cost of production increases. So, what they will do? They just have to reduce their profit margin, they are not left with any choices, right. So, supply of the product increases, again the output will be more, so supply will again more in the market, which is again going to reduce the price. So, double effect will be there, right. Firstly, your cost of production is increasing because of more output, and secondly, when there will be more supply in the market, then again it is reducing the cost, keeping the demand same or lesser change in the demand. When supply will be more, then the forces will work in the opposite direction and that will decrease the price. So, the demand remaining the same, and when the supply of the product increases, the price of the product comes down, hence the average revenue will also reduces, will come down. So, a fall in the average revenue and rise in the average cost will continue till they both becomes equal, right. So, this is how the firms operating in the long run will reach to the point where their average revenue will be equals to average cost, and which explains that the firms operating in the long run will only earn normal profit, right. So, this happens when the firm is earning supernormal profit. Now, looking at the second condition, when the firms were incurring loss in the short run, right. What happens to those firms or to those players who were making or incurring the losses in the short run? What will happen? Some firm will exit from the market because they were making losses. So, some existing firm will decrease their production by decreasing the number of plant, because they were not able to afford it because of their losses. So, here they are going to reduce their capacity, right. They will reduce their production capacity because there is not much demand in the market, or they might not able to cover up the losses which they are incurring. So, they reduce their capacity, they decrease their size of plants, and some existing firms will leave the industry, okay. if they are not able to maintain it anymore, then definitely they will not be left with any choice, they will leave the industry. So, now what will happen? As a result, the output produced will decrease. So, this will definitely decrease the output, because the existing firm have reduced their production capacity, and those who were already there in the market, they also leave the industry. So, what will happen here is the total output decreases and the demand for factors of production will decrease now, right. When demand of factors of production will decrease, then there will be a decrease in the price of factors, and this will lead to decrease in the average cost. So, their average cost will decrease and the supply of product will decrease, and the demand remaining the same. When the supply of the product decreases, the price of the product will go up. Okay. So, hence you can say that average revenue will go up, and a rise in the average revenue and falls in the average cost will continue till the points they both become equal, right. So, again the firms operating in the long run will reach up to the point where their average revenue will be equals to the average cost, because of the reduction in the total output and the reduction in the supply of the total firm. This will reach up to the point where the average revenue and average cost of the firm will remain same, right. So, therefore, we are saying the perfect competitive firms will only earn normal profit in the long run. So, the conditions which we are having in the short run of supernormal profit, what happens there, that we have understood well, and how this the firms who were incurring the loss in the short run will behave in the long run, that considerations also we have studied. So, we are left with only one condition here: in the long run the firms will reach up to that normal profit, and they will only be incurring normal profit. So, here this is how we represent the long run consideration of the firm working in the long run, okay, representing the normal profit, because there will be no firm who is earning supernormal profit, and there will be no firm who is also incurring the loss. The firms which will remain will only earn normal profit. So, again on the x axis we have output, right, and on the y axis we are representing revenue, cost and price. And since we are talking about long run, so here we are representing this marginal cost as an LMC, that represents, this is the long run marginal cost curve and this is the long run average cost curve. And we have seen that normal profit is a condition where the average revenue of the firm is equals to the average cost. So, OP again is the price taken from the market, right, and PL is the demand curve, which is perfectly elastic, represents to you in the form of PL. And then when the demand is perfectly elastic, your average revenue will be constant, and when average revenue is constant, marginal revenue will also be constant. So, what we are going to locate? We are going to find out this equilibrium point, and equilibrium point is the point where the marginal revenue is equals to the marginal cost, right, and where the marginal cost curve will cut your marginal revenue from below. So, this is the point where we are reaching our equilibrium point, because at this point we are having this marginal revenue is equals to marginal cost, and since this is the condition of normal profit, so where our average revenue will be equals to the average cost. So, this is our long run average cost curve. So, you can see for the production of OQ output, the cost is EQ and the revenue is also EQ. So, average revenue of the firm is EQ and average cost of the firm is also EQ, right, which is equal. Okay. So, here we have this normal profit consideration in the long run, right. So, I believe this is clear to every one of you how we are determining the price and output, or how we are going to reach out the equilibrium point in the short run as well as in the long run, right. This is the explanation which I have already discussed with you all. I hope it is clear. The explanation which we have done, where the point E says that LMC is equals to MR and AR, stating that in the long run the firms are earning normal profit. So, if we recollect what we have covered in our session today, we have a perfect competitive market where we have tried to find out where the firm is going to reach their equilibrium and how they are going to earn. So, we have short run considerations and we have long run considerations in the firm, right. In short run we have seen that we have some inputs which are of fixed nature and we have some inputs which are of variable nature, whereas in long run we have only variable inputs, we can make change to all of them to increase the size of the output. In short run, no new firm is able to enter and exit because of the shorter time frame, whereas in long run any new firm can enter and any existing firm can exit, right. So, the entry, if you talk about entry and exit, there is no entry and exit in the short run and there is entry and exit of the firms in the long run. So, based on these conditions we are saying the firms working in the short run can earn supernormal profit, or the firms are earning normal profit also, and some of the firms were also incurring the loss, right. Supernormal profit is where the average revenue is greater than the average cost, normal profit where the average revenue is equal to the average cost, and loss where the average revenue is lesser than the average cost, right. Whereas the firms working in the long run under perfect competition, they will only earn normal profit, right. They will only earn normal profit because the firms which were earning supernormal profit in the short run will increase their existing capacity and will also invite new suppliers into the market, which will increase the size of output. And when the size of output will increase, demand for factors of production will increase, which will increase the cost of production. And if the supply is increasing, definitely when supply is increasing and the price is also increasing, cost is also increasing. Increased supply will increase the price in the market, reduce the price in the market, and the cost is increasing. So, definitely a long run firm will reach to a point where they will only earn normal profit. Same happens to the firms which were incurring the loss, right. The firms which were incurring the loss in the short run, in long run they will reduce their production capacity, right, and some of the firms will leave the industry. So, when the output will decrease, definitely the cost of production will reduce, right, and when the demand when the supply will be less, the price will be high, right, because of the more demand and supply will be less, price will increase and cost will decrease. So, again they will reach to the point where the firms are going to earn only normal profit. So, this continues to be happen till the point where their average revenue will be equals to the average cost, right. So, this is how we understand the situation of the firms under the perfect competition in the short run as well as in the long run. Now, very important aspect to be taken care of, how are we going to make decisions when the firms are working under this perfect competitive market. So, let us look at the managerial implications of perfect competitive market. The first point says that managers of these firm should be capable of entering early, as early they can enter into this market. So, if you are an early entrant, right, if you are taking the first mover advantage to enter into this perfect competitive market, then you will be able to generate more profit. As we have seen in the short run only, firms are able to earn supernormal profit, whereas in long run if they will enter late into the market, they will only be able to earn normal profit. So, managers should always try to enter into the perfect competitive market when the supply is low and the prices are high, right. So, when the supply is low, when there were few firms in the market, then you should enter into this area or this market structure, so that you will be able to earn abnormal profit. A supernormal profit can also be called as abnormal profit somewhere. So, please do not get confused, right. You can denote it within abnormal profit also, or we call it as in supernormal profit. Okay. And we can say that the firms who were earning abnormal profit should remain ready. Yes, it should not be that managers should keep themselves free, that if they are earning supernormal profit and they are earning very good, so they should sit relax and there will be no problem to them in future. Definitely this is not going to happen. If they are earning abnormal profit, if they are earning good profit, they should keep themselves ready, because this will attract new suppliers into the market. So, they should always focus on reducing their cost and to bring something new to their business, where they would be able to attract more profit from the market, right. So, they should keep themselves always ready and make their calculations of how to reduce the cost. And lastly, we are saying, as in perfect competitive market, firm is a price taker, right. They are taking the prices from the market forces, that is demand and supply. So, therefore, to survive in the long run, firm should be the amongst the lowest cost producer. So, for the survival of the firms in the perfect competitive market, have to focus on the reduction of the cost on the continuous basis, because this is the only area where they can work upon, right. They cannot increase or decrease the prices of their commodity, they are taking the prices from the market. So, this is the only choice they are left with. if they want to continue with their firm in the perfect competitive market, they should always focus on reducing the cost of their product, right. So, here if we review our topic for today's session, we have talked about the features of perfect competitive market, how we understood this market and what are the conditions needed to be understand. Then we have seen how prices are being determined, right. With the interaction of demand and supply, we determine the prices, and whenever there will be a change in the demand and supply, the change in the price will take place. And then we have understood this short run equilibrium. Short run equilibrium represents the case of supernormal profit, normal profit and the losses, whereas we have also understood the condition of long run equilibrium, where we have only studied the case of normal profit, as the firms working in the long run will only earn normal profit. So, this is all for today's class. Let us look at the reference books, the material from where the context has been taken up. That is all for today. Thank you all of you.